Hello friends! Welcome to my presentation on web design workflow and task runners. First things first, let's go ahead and talk about web workflow. What is it? Web design workflow is a design aspect which covers all of the processes and steps that will be necessary to create a website. Its purpose is to serve as a type of recipe for your site building. It mainly consists of 3 basic steps. Planning. In this phase, we can have multiple steps depending on the extent of your project. Often, it starts with a marketing team defining objectives and audiences for the website. From here, an IT team or a group of others will translate this information into a working infrastructure or plan like a wireframe. Then we move on to implementation. This is the phase where a team will focus on the actual content being added to a site, choosing materials that will resonate and be effective with a target audience while still meeting the objective of the site. Then, again, an IT team will integrate that information and content into the website. The final step would be testing and launch. This is where your team will take that mock-up website that they've created and it will be tested to eliminate any bugs or even just typos or grammar errors before the site is launched. You can see in this image kind of a breakdown of a little bit more intense web design workflow, talking about all the different phases and steps that this specific team wanted to take in their efforts to accomplish their goal in their website. So why is web design workflow important? At first, web workflow probably just sounds like another process that's going to take up more time. But actually, there's many benefits to having a workflow planned out for your project. Improved planning. Precise planning can make or break a website. Planning this way can help ensure that no details are slipping through the cracks. This will empower you and your team to make informed decisions and prepare to face the challenges that come your way throughout your web designing and building process. Web design workflow is a huge time saver. It will help you and your different teams stay unified and organized, and this will increase team effectiveness and productivity, which in the end will save you a lot of precious time. Consistency and quality improvement. Having this extensive planning and organization can help you and your team all catch the same vision for your project. This will also allow for you and your team members to hone in on your own specialties and talents and skills so that you can bring your best work forward and really put forth the best project that you could as a team. So I'm sure by now you're probably thinking, wow, this is super awesome. How can I create my own website workflow? Well, I broke this down into my own little recipe of a way that I think is going to be the best to create a website workflow. The first thing you want to do is manage expectations. It's important to make sure that everyone involved in the project is on the same page. So this is an opportunity to lay out expectations such as deadlines, roles, and any other important criteria at the beginning of your project. This will help ensure everything runs smoothly and that you can be on the same page as not just your team, but also your client. Then we want to define objectives and the audience. So this is where that marketing team is going to step in. What will the purpose of the website be? Who is the site geared towards? What will people be looking for when they get to the site? These are the kinds of questions that marketing team is going to ask themselves. Then we move on to plan site structure. Planning the site structure is going to be where you develop your wireframes and create your sitemap. This will give you that big picture of where things are going to go in your project and how you want your site to function and look. Then the fun part, creating content. This is the chance to create all those mock-ups and really start to build your site so that you can see what it's going to look like. From there, you move on to review and approval. So your site is almost ready to go at this point, so now you send it to your client for approval. This stage can present itself in a lot of different ways depending on your client, so it's important to stay patient and flexible, but also to stay in constant communication with your client so that the project doesn't fall through. Website development. So once everything is approved and ready for those final touches, your IT team is going to step in again and integrate any missing pieces and make sure that everything is ready to operate live online. Then we move on to testing. This might be one of the most important steps, at least in my book, because now is when you're going to take the time to make sure that everything runs like it should. This is going to include like making bug fixes, checking your content for spelling or grammar errors, just making sure that everything looks really clean, checking your SEO settings, and also checking for mobile responsiveness to make sure that anybody's going to be able to access and use your site with ease, no matter what screen they're using. And finally, we move on to the launch. So now that your project is more or less done, you'll finally just choose a domain and publish your site. But remember, websites are not one and done projects. It will be important to check in on the site often and perform any routine maintenance that might be necessary. This is also when you're going to want to start looking into the analytics of your site and focusing in on those types of things. And that's really all you need for a website workflow. It makes the idea of creating a website seem so much simpler. The important thing in the end is to remember that web design workflow is all about bringing success to your team. Keep it simple and work together. It doesn't have to be complicated. So now that we've gone ahead and talked about web design workflow, I guess we can move on to the task runners. So what is a task runner? A task runner is a program that performs repetitive developmental tasks within your code. So this would include tasks like prefixing CSS rules, concatenating files, compiling code, minimizing JavaScript and CSS files, and really just kind of those mundane things that can get kind of repetitive and tedious. Why would you want to use a task runner when you could just do it yourself? Task runners provide automation. Using a task runner will save you a lot of time and mundane work. This is because they do perform many of the repetitive tasks like minification and compilation for you. Task runners can use a wide range of plugins to save you and your team a lot of time. So how do I use a task runner? You'll probably start by selecting the task runner you want to use. There's a lot of them. We're going to talk about some of them. From there, you'll be able to use and access different plugins and tools that your task runner has. Some of the most popular task runners today are Grunt, Gulp, Yarn, Require.js, and Brunch. Grunt is a massive ecosystem of ready-to-use plugins. You are also able to create your own plugin if what you need isn't readily available from Grunt. That's why a lot of people really like this and it's gotten so popular. Gulp helps you take advantage of the flexibility of JavaScript by using nodes to work faster. Yarn is a quick, secure, and reliable. It's a great way to use and share JavaScript code with others all over the world. Require JavaScript is a JavaScript file optimized for in-browser use. This provides a more stable support for plugins. And finally, Brunch. Brunch focuses on the production of a smaller number of files that can be deployed from a large number of separate development trees. Task runners are a handy tool that can save you and your team a lot of time sitting with your code writing software. Pick one of the few that we talked about today and learn a little bit more about it. Task runners are such a broad topic because there's so many to choose from and they all differ slightly, but they can make a huge difference in the functionality of your program and also of your team. Thanks for coming to my presentation. If you have any questions, let me know.